Hi, I'm Tom Jones and welcome to another free art lesson. I wanted to let you know I'm here in Raleigh at the annual Art of the Carolinas. This is a special event. It's the largest gathering of student artists, teachers, and vendors from around the world. I hope you can join us here. I want to take a moment here and show you an idea on how to do a warm mountain and a warm sky together. And the reason for this particular lesson is that if you have a warm sky, which I'm going to paint in here in a moment, you'll want the top of that mountain to be warm as well, for the simple reason that it's an area that's going to be warm and it'll have more of an impact in your painting if you do it that way. I'm going to take a moment and just put in a simple sky. I'm going to start with a little bit of yellow, and then I'm going to put in a little bit of red above that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a little bit of white at the top between the edge of the mountain and where the yellow starts. That white will actually make that area look brighter and hotter and warmer than if I just had the yellow there. So let me see if I can get away with that now. So I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to pick up some yellow to start with. And I'm working on dry paper. I haven't wet the sky, but I might go ahead and wet it with just a little bit of a spray bottle in a moment. So let me pick up a little bit of yellow. I'm using a lemon yellow in this case. Any yellow in that area will work nicely. And I want to remember to leave a little space between the top of the mountain and where the yellow starts. I'm going to work with two colors in this case. I'm going to work with some yellow. In this case, like I said, a lemon yellow. And you can go right into your mountain area. That's not a problem. Then I'm going to pick up a little bit of red. The red I'm using now is not a cad red or an orangey red. It's an actual darker red than that. And it's very friendly to my yellow here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And again, I'm working with basically a dry paper here. I'm not wetting it other than just the water that's in the paint. Now notice where I have this edge here. I've got a little spray bottle that I've got in this case here. It's got water in it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little bottle and I'm going to go ahead and just wet the underside of the yellow and let that edge disappear. There was a hard edge there before. Watch what happens. I've got a little bit of the yellow and the red. I'm going to go ahead and let those colors run together. Let some of the red run across and down into the yellow. I'm going to take some tissue now, and I'm going to be very careful to make sure that these colors sort of merge together so there's no line in there. I'm going to put a little more red in there, tone down the yellow just a little bit more. Watch how I do this. I'm just letting those colors sort of run together, and I'm going to have an overlapping of color between the red and the yellow. And just let it go. As long as you keep tilting it and as long as it's wet, you won't have any difficulty with this. So all I'm going to do is just let these colors merge like so. Let the red run down into the yellow. You don't want too much of a yellow area. You want more of a red area there. So I'll just let it run like so. When I'm comfortable with what I want, I'm going to go ahead and lay it down, and then I'm going to dry it. Then I'll come back and I'll do the mountain, and you'll see exactly what happens. I'm going to add possibly a little blue to the top of the sky as well. So let me get some of this excess color off. And again, you'll notice I have some of the yellow come over into the mountain area here. I have some of the yellow come down into the mountain area on this side as well. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take my tissue, just soften that edge just a little bit with a tissue. And then what I did is I got rid of the hard edge here on the yellow. Now I'm going to dry this. Once I dry it, I'm going to come back and we'll do the mountain. Stay with me. Now it's completely dry, and it must be dry if you're going to put the mountain in. You don't want any of the mountain color bleeding up into the wet sky. So it has to be dry, and just simply touch it with the back of your hand, and if it's room temperature or warm, then you know it's dry. If it's moist, then obviously it's still wet. So let's take a little bit of mountain color. I'm going to switch to some darker color. I'm going to come in and pick up a Prussian blue, and I'm going to pick up a little touch of hooker green. Now those are two very dark colors. Hooker green's very dark as well as Prussian blue. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to start laying in color just for the edge of where the mountain is. You don't have to be careful. You can go above or below the pencil line if you wish. But just make sure that the color is nice and dark as a contrast against that sky. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch a little bit. Remember what I said earlier, that the mountain area here should be warm if the sky is warm. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of my yellow, and I'm going to drag a little bit of that yellow into this area here to make sure it stays nice and warm. So I've got some yellow going into the top edge of that mountain. And then I'll even take maybe just a little bit of that red that I used in the sky, and we'll put a little bit of that red under there as well. Let me just take a tissue, pick up some of the green that sort of bled into that area. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of red and throw that in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some blue in this case, some of my Prussian blue, and I'm going to come in and add just a little bit more dark underneath there. And then I'll take my little spray bottle like so, and I'll just touch just a little water in there just to kind of let that fuse. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up some more color, and I want to keep it dark out away from this area. So I want it nice and warm in this area, but I want it cooler away from that area. A little more hooker green in this case, a little more Prussian blue, and we'll come in and we'll just lay in a little bit more color so you can see the edge of that mountain. Let me pull the color down just a little bit. I would encourage you, when you're doing this, not to have the color go too far without making a color change. I would suggest that you maybe do a color change every 1.5 to 2 inches in this case. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my rose color. This is a quinacridone rose. I'm going to add a little Prussian blue to that and warm it up just a little bit. And we'll put a little bit of that warm color there as well. So what I'm doing is I'm just having an interesting variety of color going on, but it's going to be warm at the top of the mountain area as well as where the sky meets here. Now what I want to do is I want to come in and dry this one more time. I'm going to put a little blue here at the top of the sky just to give it a more realistic look for you. So let me dry this right now. Now it's dry completely, and it must be dry because I don't want any of the sky obviously bleeding into where the mountain is. Now notice already where I have the warm sky, and then also at the top of the mountain it's warm. That's what I'm looking for right there. As I go away from this area where the sun is setting behind the mountain, it gets a little cooler. So let me go ahead and take another brush, and let me go ahead and put in a little bit of blue in the sky. In this case, I'll pick up a little bit of my ultramarine blue deep, and we'll just put a little bit of blue up here just to make it a little more interesting. And you can either do it as a smooth sky, or you can just put in an area of cloud coming across there, either way. In this case, I think I'll do something a little different. I'll come in and put in the look of a little bit of a dark cloud in front of that area. Now you must be very careful here because you don't want to spill any of the darker paint, the blue paint, in an area that you don't want. So just be very careful with it, and it kind of gives you this dark cloud idea with this sunset going on up here. So you can do it any way you want to, but this seems to work, I think, and we'll just do it this way. Just have a little bit of the dark cloud area coming across. Now what I would suggest to you is that you take a little bit of color or water from your spray bottle, and notice how this edge is here on that blue. I'm just going to soften that just a little bit in a couple of areas with this spray bottle, and what will happen is that we'll give a more realistic look to the area of the cloud there, rather than just having a hard edge. You might have a couple of soft edges and a couple of hard edges going on with those dark clouds in front of. Let's carry on just a little bit more and do just a little bit more of that area in dark. Same thing, let's take a little bit of the dot bottle, the spray bottle, and just touch a couple of areas and soften that just a little bit. Make sure you pick up any areas where there was a little splatter and so forth. And then I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to come in and I'm going to put, in this case, take my toothbrush, and I'm going to soften this area right here where the white of the sky and the yellow meet. So I'm going to take some clear water, clean water, and I'm going to take a tissue, and what I want to do is I want to come in and just very carefully now soften this area here to give it more of a glowing look. So you pat it with your tissue, a little bit more with the toothbrush. I'm not going into the mountain area now, just where the edge of the yellow and the white meet. Make sure you have a clean tissue and just pick up that extra, and it sort of gives you a glow in that area. So that's an easy way of taking and putting a glow to the top of the mountain, as well as having that little sunset going on there. Just a little fun with it. Let's just repeat. I came in when I painted the sky, the mountain, with my darks, and as I got to the area where the sun is behind the mountain, I put in a little yellow and just a touch of red, surrounded it with blue, and then continued on with the darker color off to what is my left here. So anyway, and then take your toothbrush and just soften that area. gives you a very simple approach to it. I hope you've enjoyed this one. See you soon.